Hey guys, I want to share something with you about the financial markets and trading. So just a quick intro to myself. My name is Nasir. So I used to be a professional trader back in pre-2008, and obviously with the 2008-2009 crash, a lot of people made a lot of losses, and the fund that I used to work for, near Canary Wharf, that went bust as well. So we all lost our jobs, and yeah, I had to rethink my career and go in different ways. I never actually went back into trading. So for the last 10 years, I haven't actually traded, but the markets never left me actually. I've been monitoring the markets and doing my usual analysis every now and again, and having a few conversations here and there with fellow traders and so on. So the market part is still inside me. Now the interesting thing is, I've sort of been waiting, as bad as it sounds, I've been waiting for another crash. I thought it would come around 2018, 2019, but obviously due to various sort of market manipulations, the crash has sort of been pushed forward, and the market was on an uprise for about 10 years. Usually tends to be around 8 years. So here we are in the middle or the beginning of a new market crash, and I want to share some stuff with you, some observations that I've been making over the years. One of the things that I used to say to people is that the next crash is going to be far bigger than 2008, and there are various reasons for that, and one of the key reasons is because the bull run that we've had since 2008, there's no real sort of solid backing behind it. Where back in the days, the markets would rise on the back of good reports, good earnings, good consumer spending, and so on. What's been happening since 2008 is almost, how shall I put it? Almost like extra liquidity in the market with no solid backing behind it. So what I mean by that is, for example, the government printed a lot of money back in 2008, but salaries weren't necessarily rising. A lot of jobs were created without no real substance, and a lot of manipulation that was going on. So markets aren't exactly what they used to be nowadays. So with the underlying problems that were still in economies, which is that a lot of economies are in huge debt, the markets were still rising and so on. So the next crash, to me, was bound to be a bigger crash. Interestingly enough, this time it's triggered by something else, which seems to be some kind of virus. I want to show you something here. I want to show you a chart that I analyzed. Where is this one gone? Yeah, here's a chart that I analyze of the US markets. This is the Dow Jones 30, so it's a good indicator of overall markets around the world. Analyze this back in, what's the date here, 12 March 2020, when the market started to tumble. What I did was I had to look at the market and its movements for the last 23 years based on a weekly basis. I didn't do daily basis. I want to see on a weekly basis what's happening, so the bigger picture in the markets. And what you can see is the markets always have these rises and falls, and rises and falls, and so on. And as of late, in recent years, the last 10 years or so, the market has risen substantially to extortionate levels. Dow Jones hitting around 30,000. And now what's happened is the market suddenly just tumbled, and as you can see, it's the steepest fall in the last 23 years. And again, my platform can only go back 23 years, so I'm only using 23 years, but it's one of the steepest falls, far worse than 2008. What's happened, and this is just within the first few weeks, by the way, first 2-3 weeks. And based on my technical analysis, I can't really see any sort of support or floor until around 18,000. And that too is a weak support, to be honest. I'm not even sure if the markets will hold around 18,000. To me, it looks like a solid support will be found around 12,000 for the Dow Jones. So what this tells me is the market yet has a lot more to fall. So this was back in 12 March. Let me just quickly get another chart of what's happened since then. Okay, so here's the chart. And again, those of you who've never used live charting software, you can usually get it from any broker, really, any broker that you choose to use. So here's the weekly basis. I'm just going to zoom out. Forgive me, my computer's on a little bit slow, but so many things open. I'm just going to zoom out back to those 23 years, just so that we can compare it with the chart that I had back in early March. Just so you see what's been happening. Oops. So again, this is the Dow Jones Industrial Average 30, so the main US market. Okay, right, and as you can see on my chart, I've got these lines. These are support resistances, and some of these lines are pretty old, by the way. These lines, you know, they've been building over the years. So once, I mean, I've been using this software for quite a long time. Once I set a line, it sort of stays there until, you know, I don't use it, you know, I close their account or something. So I mean, when I start looking at other sort of instruments like oil and so on, you'll see there's loads of lines, because I've just been following that for the last 10 years or so. So let's look at the market, and it's quite shocking actually. So if you just reflect back on my initial analysis of the market, we were around the 22,000 mark here when the market's only just started to fall. And one of the things that I wrote here was it could easily go to 18,000, and shockingly enough, it has actually just touched 18,000, because that's where the first sort of support is. And again, if any of you know much about technical analysis, it's based on a lot of mathematical charting stuff. Again, I'm hoping I'm going to show you a few things, a few tricks on the way over the next few videos. But as you can see, as soon as it hit close to the 18,000 level, the market's rebounded back. And if I'm completely honest, I don't think that's a strong enough support to keep the markets up, because again, we're only at the start of this so-called pandemic caused by the coronavirus. The real impact and the side effects will kick in over the next quarter or so, and what we can be sure, or pretty sure, shall I say, is that the markets will continue to tumble. Let's see. We've had the choppiest weeks in market activity in the last 23 years. Look at these candlesticks; they're huge. A lot of volatility. Yeah. So again, if you're an amateur trader or so on, it's very dangerous to go in. You know, I've got a lot of harsh memories from 2008 where prices were swinging around heavily. I certainly wouldn't be going into the markets during these sort of big movements. Market is the volatility is coming down a bit, as you know, as the market starts to recognize and absorb the reality, which is what's happening with the corona and the impact it will have on the markets. So we can see the market has gone up in the past week. The question is which way we go next. I would expect the market to sort of the decline to sort of slow down, but quite easily it could go down to 12,000. It's not going to happen instantly, most likely not as fast as it has happened, but just watch this space. Markets most probably coming down further, which will create a lot of opportunities for shorting, making money while the market's falling, and at the end of the journey to take some long positions, buying instruments that are most likely to recover really well. So I'm hoping I'm going to show you this over the coming years, coming few videos. And interestingly enough, I think I'm going to go back into the markets after 10 years, and I'm going to trade a small portfolio. Actually, a friend of mine approached me, and he was saying, "Hey, let's go into the markets. It's been 10 years. Let's see what we can do. We've been waiting for this fall for a long time." So I'm going to demonstrate what we do with a small portfolio of about £10,000 only. What we do, and let's see what happens. Hey, we might end up losing the whole amount, or we might end up making a good profit. So we'll see, and hopefully during the journey we can teach you guys a few things and help you out with your trading.